If you've ever had
today's show, if you're not aware of what's going on in Canada, you should become aware. We all know, obviously, that Trudeau is a puppet of the World Economic Forum, just like Putin is, just like all these world leaders are working and conspiring together. And they're just making dictatorships out of government and then using different terms so that the idiots out there actually think, oh, it's a conspiracy. They're saying that it's a dictatorship. Well, what just happened in Canada should show people that the government has no care whatsoever for the civilians of their respective countries. All of these leaders are working against the civilians. The same civilians who they're supposed to be working for, they're working to destroy. This is what has happened in Canada, as they've now, well, supposedly, they now have control until 2025 and can pass on elections and things like that, and nobody's saying boo in America about it. It's not making the mainstream media. And after Trudeau announces this, he just hops on a plane and heads over to NATO because he knows that there'll be pushback, and they probably pulled this because they saw how much pushback was coming from the citizens in Canada, how much pushback was coming from people around the world who were hearing about this with Trudeau, seeing him freeze bank accounts, and still there were some maniacs out there that were defending the government over peaceful protests and freezing assets. It's insanity. Look what Trudeau is getting away with now.
CBC News has learned the Liberal government and the NDP are in talks to strike a historic deal that would keep the Liberal minority government in power for 3 more years. That means we would not have a federal election until 2025. The host of Power and Politics on CBC News Network, Vassy Kapelos, is here to break this news for us. And Vassy, take us through what you're learning tonight.
Hi, Ian. Yeah, the Liberals and the NDP have reached this tentative agreement to, as you put it, keep the Liberals in power at the seat of government until 2025. It would involve the NDP supporting confidence, motions of confidence or bills of confidence. So, for example, more specifically, the budget for the next 4 budget cycles. So quite a long period of time. The big thing to note with all of this, though, is that it is predicated on the support of the NDP. So NDP caucus has to endorse it before the agreement becomes formalized. But right now there is that tentative deal between the NDP and the Liberals to keep the Liberals in power until 2025.
Brian, I spoke to a veteran pollster today who made a case that this could be the most progressive party in power in more than a generation, perhaps not since another Trudeau was prime minister. Does this story start with the federal election last year, a calculation that Justin Trudeau made that he could get a majority government and was unsuccessful in doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, when he called the snap election last fall, it's pretty clear that he wanted a majority government and he didn't quite get there. They fell 11 seats short. These minority parliaments often last 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. So a deal like this allows it to go the full length of 4 years. And frankly, Trudeau hasn't had a chance, I think, to do a lot of the things he wanted to do for the last 2 years. He's been in pandemic crisis mode. And so I think that this gives him some runway to get some things done without having an election hanging over his head.
So is there any possibility that he keeps going beyond 2025, or do you have replacements lined up?
Well, it's a big question, and there's a lot of speculation already running about that. If this goes all the way to 2025, as the deal says, Trudeau will have been prime minister for 10 years at that point. So I do think that speculation will only grow with this deal that he's going to step down before the next election. But that's not clear. I've talked to people around him who say they genuinely don't know what his plans are. So, you know, his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, former Bank of Canada and Bank of England Governor Mark Carney are frequently floated as possible successors. So I think that question will definitely be stick around the longer this goes on.
Today, I'm announcing that the Liberal Party has reached an agreement with the New Democratic Party to deliver results for Canadians now. This supply and confidence agreement starts today and will be in place until the end of this Parliament in 2025. What this means is that during this uncertain time, the government can function with predictability and stability, present and implement budgets, and get things done for Canadians. This agreement is not about compromising the core beliefs of either of our parties or denying the differences between us. What it is about is making sure that those differences don't stand in the way of delivering for Canadians. We both believe firmly in Parliament's role of keeping the government accountable. This agreement maintains that critical function. We'll continue to engage in healthy debate with each other and disagree on things, just like we'll also continue working with other parties in the House of Commons to reach consensus and make progress together.
We found out last night that the NDP and the Liberals were meeting secretly, and they've cooked up a backroom deal that would see Justin Trudeau get the majority power that he tried desperately to get last fall in the last election, but he failed to get. This deal means that Canadians have woken up to, in essence, an NDP Liberal majority government. And I think we have to let that sink in. This is an NDP Liberal government, and they have the majority. 82% of voters did not vote for a Liberal NDP government, including millions of Liberal voters. These Canadians woke up this morning to the fact that they have been hoodwinked and they've been deceived by their Prime Minister. Now, let me be clear. This is nothing more than a Justin Trudeau power grab. He is desperately clinging to power. His number one goal, as we have seen over the course of the last 6 years, is always to do what's best for him, not to do what's best for Canadians.
I mean, how this isn't covered by a country like America, who's right next door, how this isn't mainstream news on every outlet, right? That just shows you how fake all this stuff is. It's as quiet as them passing the Patriot Act or some other bill underneath everybody's breath, right? They're like, oh, you know, there could be some type of uprising here with Trudeau, or, oh, you know, we know that the elections don't count anyway for the most part. I mean, let's be realistic. But even if hypothetically they did, anybody on either side should be upset about this. The government taking control, seizing power.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young noble leaders of the world. Grateful.
That's what this is. Seizing power. This is a government working against its citizens. And what this means is you should be very concerned in America, because the narrative that we've been hearing here with their fake left-right charade that they put on is how I can't wait for the midterm elections in 2022. Oh, the Republicans are going to take back, we're going to take back the Senate, we're going to take back control, and everything's going to go back to the way it was. And we all know, those of us who are awake, know that it's not going back to the way it was. We've been saying it for years, it's never going back. They flat out tell you it's not going back with the Great Reset and these other narratives that they use about an angrier world. They tell you all this stuff. But people are like, oh, you know, in 2022, we're going to take back. Oh, yeah? Well, wait until Biden does something like this. Can you not see the government here in America doing something, saying, well, now that we have frictions with Russia, and of course, because of the outbreak, we need consistency in Congress, so we're going to postpone elections. We're going to postpone those things. Now, again, there's people who listen to my channel who believe the elections are real. I have no problem with that. You know, everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. I don't want to sit here and walk on, crap on anyone's parade if they actually want to believe in man. I only put my trust in God. That's it. But if you believe in elections and you believe in that stuff, and you're a liberal, you don't have a problem with it. Why? Because your party would seize power and stay in office. So I can see this totally happening here in America, and the liberal people being like, yeah, it's a good thing we have so much conflict, right? And then you'll get the right all riled up. They'll create another type of event like January 6th. I mean, the writing is on the wall. They are doing whatever they want and getting away with it. Because they've, like I've been saying for years, they've positioned themselves to have so much power, through networking in their secret societies. That's what all the years of just living a normal American life was. The reason it was like that is because they had to continue to seize as much power as they possibly could to take total control. And now they have total control. And there's nothing that can be done. They have a military protecting them. They have the police force, who are all Masonic for the most part, protecting them. They have the police force ready to lay down because they're deliberately committing acts of racism and things like that, because that's what they want to do. They want to bring in a military state and have the military on your streets controlling things. And people, like I've said a million times, are going to ask for it. So Trudeau strikes surprise deal to keep power until 2025. Canada's ruling Liberal Party and opposition New Democrat Party, the NDP, have reached a surprise agreement that aims to keep the minority government in power until 2025. Governments with a minority of seats in parliament, like the one Trudeau now leads, tend to last an average of about 2 years. But this rare written agreement could permit it to go the entire 4-year term after last year's election. Okay? Are people not seeing the similarity here, right? With what's here in America? Every talking head on the right, right? And remember, the right is completely controlled. Fox News is completely controlled. These are the same people that told everyone they should get their magic potion, but we don't think mandates are necessary, but you need to go get it, right? The only thing the left-right agreed on is that, and then the same talking points about what's going on in Ukraine, right? Notice that? Two big similarities, right? Well, the left still makes fun of the right, and the right still makes fun of the left about, their take on Ukraine and Russia and their take on the magic potion, but they're still telling their audience the same thing. And all we hear about now is midterm elections. And I just roll my eyes because I'm like, oh, yeah, something will happen because the elections aren't real. So how are they going to try to pull this off? Because if Republicans go back into power, what do you think will happen? If Republicans go back into power and they don't fix this mess, then the people are going to go nuts because the right-wing activists, whatever you want to call them, people who are Republican, if they don't see change and things like that, they will get pissed off and they will probably do something about it. Like possibly, press, who knows? I can't technically say, but they will not be pleased. Whereas the liberal side, they don't care. It's just they're cupcakes who want to be coddled. So you could easily see this being passed in America. Oh boy, we need stability. We need to present and implement budgets and get things done for Canadians, right? All talking points, get things done for Canadians. They just froze bank accounts. They forced mandates all across the country. Canada is pretty much under dictatorship already, and this just proves that it is. It just proves that it is because they can do whatever they want. They can change laws as they go, and you can fully expect Biden to do it too in America. So after the election 6 months ago, new Democratic leader Jagmeet Singh ruled out a deal with the Liberals, saying he was willing to support Trudeau only on a case-by-case basis. On Tuesday, the two parties published a list of priorities they had agreed upon. The Liberals and New Democrats also said they would develop a plan to phase out financing for the fossil fuel sector starting in 2022. So, with all this stuff going on, it's pretty amazing that, we're not going, it's so obvious what they're doing with the Great Reset, and they're going to make Russia into a greater superpower. The World Economic Forum, don't forget, said that America by 2030 is not going to be the superpower anymore. Well, that's because they're going to deliberately destroy Babylon here purposefully. And that's what you're seeing right now. And they also, all they talk about is fossil fuels and climate change. And people are like, oh, those are really pressing issues. Since when does our government and NATO not get involved in a conflict like this? We backed out of the Afghanistan thing. And then this going on. Oh, yeah, we're just going to, McDonald's is going to take out their McDonald's in Russia. Ooh, oh my goodness, right? This is the gayest war you could possibly imagine. It is so gay. Like, we're not gonna have Starbucks in Russia anymore. We're pulling out. We're making a difference. And people are tweeting like they're involved. There are people who are sitting around pretending they're anime characters. Oh, I'm going to support them. Donate. Let's donate to them. And what heroes they are over there. Just complete zombies that don't see what's going on. They're literally laying down to create a greater Soviet Union, so to speak. They're literally, it's a land seize. That's all that it is. I have a video up on my website that I just put up. You have to check out if you haven't. Talking about this years in advance, about who owns the land, about what the citizens mean to the land and how they're going to wipe out the citizens. And now it's happening. And that's on my website. Can't post that stuff here. Why would you? Because you can't get truth across here. So Trudeau has been in power since 2015 and will have more than 3 years to deliver on his main campaign promises like fighting climate change or addressing a national housing shortage. All right? And that ties into that World Economic Forum as well. Right? They're going to give everyone stacked in these cubicles. They're going to bankrupt everybody. Right? They're going to destroy their economies on purpose. And anybody who's opposed to it, well, you're going to be thrown in jail for the most part. You're going to have your bank account frozen. People don't even seem to understand how insane that is. Like if somebody told you that 20 years ago. You know? Like it's one thing when you hear about, oh, the IRS is going to seize your assets and things like that. Because it doesn't happen very often. But for the government just go, oh, you disagree with us? We're going to seize it. And then people aren't like, yeah, it's a dictatorship. They're like, no, those people were in the wrong. Huh? They weren't walking around with guns. They weren't trying to overthrow government. You know, and believe it's a psyop or it wasn't a psyop, the simple fact of the matter is, look what's come of it, right? Passing this law, keeping power, canceling elections. Oh, man. Opposition Conservative leader Candice Bergen said Canadians had been hoodwinked and deceived. You think? This is nothing more than a Justin Trudeau power grab, as you heard. And I mean, look, and then they start talking about things like the budget and the climate change instead of talking about how this is a government seizing power over the citizens, right? Citizens who believe that these are republics where they vote and elect people should be livid. And they're not. They're like, oh, great, we'll keep some stability and then we could focus on green energy. Holy crap. This world is so doomed. It's unbelievable. This is next in America. Do not be surprised, really. Would you be shocked if this happens this year? Right? You have the most incompetent president that you couldn't even write a character in a movie this incompetent. And for anyone to watch this guy and think he's competent, and I think it's a show, obviously, but I mean, how liberals watching like, oh, he's doing a great job. He could barely speak English, right? He's so lackadaisical. He looks like he's about to fall over. And he's talking about New World Order. I mean, it's really pathetic how people don't see what's going on. And it's even more so going to get worse when we find out, oh, because Russia, shut the grid down or something like that, which is coming. Oh, well, they shut the grid down. So I guess, we're going to need to keep everyone in office because, don't be surprised if the grid thing happens right around November or September just for that purpose. Oh, well, it's messing with the voting and right? Cause more upheaval between left and right. I mean, just constant divide and conquer. Just never ending. And never ending them doing what they want and getting away with it. So this is Canada coming to America. Absolutely sickening, this world. It really is. It's pathetic. It's pathetic that nobody out there, other than us who are awake, can see what's going on. But when you know how mind control works, you know about the dumbing down of society, fluoridization, dumping the fluoride in food and water, chemtrailing, the soft metals, the aluminum. I mean, it isn't surprising from that standpoint, but still, I mean, it's almost like you just want to shake someone and say, snap out of it and see what they're doing. But they don't want to. They think that these are all good things for them because they're coddled, they're babied, and they want to be babied, and they want to be on the teat of Big Brother, and that's where they're going to be.